The leaves fell from the great oak tree at the edge of the meadow. They fell from all the trees. One branch of the oak tree stood high above the others, stretched far out toward the meadow. Two leaves sat together on its very tip. "It's no longer like the old days," one leaf said to the other. "You're right," responded the other leaf. "So many have fallen this evening that we're almost the only ones left on our branch." "No one knows who's going to fall next," the first leaf said. When it was still warm and the sun still provided heat, when a storm came or a cloud burst, many of the leaves were already torn off then. Even if they were still young, you never know whose turn will come next. "The sun rarely shines now," the second leaf sighed. "And even when it shines, it doesn't strengthen us. We need to renew our strength." "Do you think it's true?" the first leaf asked. "Do you really think it's true that other leaves come and replace us when we're gone, and then others come and even others after them?" "It certainly is true," the second leaf whispered. "Our minds are too small to think about this. It's beyond us." "Plus, it's all too sad if you think about it too much," the first leaf added. They were silent for a while. Then the first leaf said quietly to himself, "Why must we disappear?" "What happens to us when we fall from the trees?" the second asked. "We flutter down to the earth." "What's lying down there?" "I don't know," the first leaf answered. "Some say one thing and some say something else. Nobody knows." "Do we still feel anything? Do we know anything more about ourselves when we're down there?" The first leaf responded, "Who knows? None of those who have fallen down there have ever returned to tell us about it." Once again they stopped talking. The first leaf spoke tenderly to the other. "Don't grieve about this too much. You're trembling too much." "Don't worry," the second leaf answered. "These days I tremble easily. I don't feel all that secure in my place anymore." "Let's not talk any more about such things," the first leaf said. "All right," replied the other. "Let's drop the subject, but what should we talk about?" They became silent again for a short time, then they continued to talk with one another. "Which of us will be the first to fall down there?" "There's still plenty of time to worry about that," the first leaf calmed him down. "Instead, let's remember now just how beautiful it was, how wonderfully beautiful when the sun came and glistened so hot that we thought we'd burst with health. Do you still remember? And then the morning dew and the mild, glorious nights." "Now the nights are terrible," the second leaf complained, "and there's no end to them." "We really shouldn't complain," the first leaf said gently. "We've lived longer, much longer than others." "Have I changed very much?" the second leaf inquired, somewhat shyly but urgently. "Not a trace," the first leaf assured him. "You think you have, because I've become so yellow and ugly." "No, it's different with me." "Oh, stop it," the second leaf asserted. "Really, I mean it," the first leaf said eagerly. "Believe me, you're as beautiful as you were on the day you were born. There may be a little yellow streak here and there, but it's barely noticeable and only makes you handsomer. Believe me." "Thanks," whispered the second leaf, who was touched. "I don't believe you. Not totally, but I thank you because you're so kind. You've always been very kind to me. Just now I'm beginning to understand how kind you've been." "Hush now," said the first leaf, and became quiet herself because she was too troubled to talk. Now both of them became silent. The hours passed. A moist wind, cold and harsh, swept through the treetops. "Oh no, now," the second leaf said, "I—" Then his voice broke off. The leaf was softly cast from its place and floated downward. Winter had arrived.